Okay, Emmy fans, we are days away from the nominations coming out for the 2016 Emmy nominations, and let's talk about these comedy races. I'm Tom O'Neill, editor of Gold Derby, here with the whole editorial core staff, full-time staff, and Paul Sheen, our executive editor. Veep did so well last year, finally winning Best Comedy Series, and now it seems more relevant than ever because of the election. And your dear friend Hillary, I know you're a Hillary fan, it kind of gives it this spooky relevance, this show about a female president, and it's also better than ever because the suspicion was that it was going to take this dip when the showrunner changed, but boy, it was fantastic this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote a piece the other day. I was curious about sort of the repeat factor. And I know we're in a new world with the expanded Emmy voting and popular votes and all of that. But it was just really interesting to go back and look at the comedy series winners since the Emmys brought in this category in the early 50s. And realizing, in almost 70 years, there have only been 33 winners. And Veep ended that Modern Family winning streak of 5 years. And you go back and 30 Rock, and when it comes to comedy series, at least, when Emmy voters, if they like you, they keep liking you. And I think that particularly this year, when you look down the list of other, what will be the likeliest nominees, they're all very good shows, but there's just something really special about Veep, and I think that it's really, I don't see how it loses. But one of our editors, Chris, Daniel, Marcus, does anyone see it losing? Chime in.
I don't see it losing. I like the reasons you said, and it is a funny thing about Emmy voters. One of two things has to happen in these series races. Either something new comes in that's just undeniable, which we don't really have that situation, or you take a major dip in quality. Otherwise, they're just going to keep voting for you.
Daniel, you updated your Emmy predictions 2 hours ago, and you put Transparent at #1.
Oh, I've had that there for a little while. It's kind of a placeholder. I'm kind of waiting and see with that one because our writer Riley did the analysis of how Transparent did better at the Guilds this past year than Veep did. Transparent even won Best Comedy Series at the Producers Guild Awards, beating Veep. So there's those factors, and then there's I'm thinking back to Ally McBeal, which was the last dramedy that won Best Comedy Series. It also had to wait a year for Best Comedy Series, and then after that first year, it's year two blew up. Hit that Best Comedy Series. So I'm sort of waiting to see what the nominations are. We could see Transparent overperform. I don't know that we'll see Veep underperform, but if we see a surge for Transparent, which won 5 Emmys last year really well, so I'm sort of at a wait and see, but I sort of don't want to be everything in lockstep in this category because I know everyone else is predicting Veep, and I sort of would have been doing so just by default.
That's a really bad reason to pick your Emmy nomination.
Well, it's definitely going to get nominated, so it won't hurt my prediction score.
I know. You have lots of time to change. All right, let's talk about, Marcus, you were the first one who counted all these up, that the experts, 17 of the 20 experts say Blackish is going to get in. It was not nominated last year, and Tracee Ellis Ross was not nominated among the for lead actress, but Anthony Anderson got in. Now all of a sudden you've perceived this big uptick for Blackish, right? What's going on?
I think it could beat Veep. I mean, I just moved it to second place.
No way.
I just moved it to second place. It has this huge broad appeal, which is how Modern Family kept winning. It's very relevant to what's going on today. And it's, there's so many voters that just love the days of the network sitcom. Like, Modern Family just won 5 in a row. We can't forget that. This is the new Modern Family. A different, shade.
And it's a different, it's slightly tweaked its second season. I mean, it's the same show, but it's just that much better. Being talked about. We had talked about on the drama side what shows are being written about on a regular basis. Blackish is definitely one of them.
It's going to get a writing nomination for the episode called Hope. I think Anthony Anderson is coming back easily. He was nominated last year as the only nominee. I think Tracee Ellis Ross is getting in for Best Actress.
And to Marcus, again, I'm touting what we just did on drama series, so people watching this, go watch us talk about drama. And Marcus talked about the pounding on the table, saying, well, how did we miss that show? Of course we should have seen it was going to be nominated. And I think that's the case with Blackish this year.
Right. And something I mentioned, the other one is the Will and Grace effect, how that show, season 1 got 1 nomination, season 2 it just exploded. I think we'll see the same for Blackish. Am I wrong, Tom? You seem like I'm onto something on a bad track here.
No, I agree 100%. I think it's going to happen. I love your Will and Grace analogy. I think that's really apt. Chris, there was something weird that happened last year in the comedy races where we were all delighted to see Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt get in there. And our buddy Titus was in there. I say our buddy because he gave a little hangout to us, and plus we just love his character. But Ellie Kemper didn't get in. And so what do you think the whole Kimmy thing is this year? What's the scene there?
It was the craziest combination of nominations last year for that show because
again, no writing or directing either. Yeah.
For Tina Fey, they love Tina Fey. Didn't get in for writing, got in for guest actress. I think that'll be a show that improves this year on nominations with 3 open slots for comedy actors. I can't imagine Ellie Kemper's not getting in. And it should continue to get in Jane and Titus. I think a couple, maybe even more guest stars. You've got not only Tina Fey again, a different character. You've got Lisa Kudrow. You've got Anna Camp. You've got a couple of the men. So, and I believe it will. They are upping the writing and directing nomination slots this year. There will be 6 instead of 5. So that's going to help a lot of these shows. I think it will get in for at least writing, maybe a directing as well. So you're going to see the profile for that show go up, I think.
Silicon Valley, you can always count on getting in for the show. What about these newcomer shows like Mozart in the Jungle? Actually, that's season 2 for that, but it did very well at the Golden Globes. It won series. It won for Gael Garcia Bernal, but sometimes that doesn't mean anything. Of course, Brooklyn Nine-Nine won both of those same awards and didn't get any prominent place at the Emmys. And then over on the drama side, The Affair had the same experience and then got snubbed at the Emmys. Anybody have any thought on Mozart? Because this is a streaming series show. Of course, it's Amazon, and it's very elitist, and that's one thing they do like. Any thoughts?
And I think I think that it could benefit. It could be lifted up into the race by Transparent.
Yes.
And if they're watching Transparent on Prime, and we were talking about this the other day, it's Prime's interface is certainly harder to deal with than Netflix, but in a way, you're watching Transparent, and underneath it's saying, well, if you like Transparent, you'll like Mozart in the Jungle. You might give it a shot, and I think be pleasantly surprised. I mean, it's one of those you have to overcome the title. The title doesn't. I mean, once you start watching it, you understand. But it's just one of those. Well, what is this going to be? And then it's so delightful. It's so delightful. And
if you know nothing about it, you might think it's an animated series.
Yeah. And
I have it getting in. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, and I just wanted to say, and I think the Golden Globe wins really gave it a boost. I mean, I know that the Emmy voters look down their noses at the Hollywood Foreign Press, but it was suddenly perceived as a winner. It would certainly, I think, make people dip in and take a look at it, and that they might not have otherwise. And so I think that in that instance, being on Amazon helps it, as opposed to if it was, say, on a Netflix. I think because they can really, and they pushed it, and they pushed it in a very masterful way, and it's a classy show. It's the international cast. It's set in New York. You've got the pedigree of the various people involved.
I think there's this weird misconception that it's a first season show because the Golden Globes really put it on the map during season 2, and so maybe voters are just coming around to finding the show. Maybe it got snubbed last year because they simply hadn't heard of it. Maybe if they'd heard of it last year, it would have got more nominations.
And that is the great thing about the streaming services is it's so easy to watch season 1.
Mm-hmm.
On any of these things in the and I think that will make a big difference.
And Amazon made it all the more easy for Emmy voters to watch any of their shows this year because they not only were the most aggressive, other than Netflix, maybe even Amazon was more aggressive. Among the many colorful, imaginative campaign stunts they pulled was they actually had Uber service for Emmy voters. I could have called an Uber, and you don't get just the regular Uber, you get the luxury Uber that arrives at your door. And then as you get in the back seat, you're handed, and it's free, by the way, wherever you want to go. I guess they limit the number of rides you have. But then you get a Kindle, not to keep, but handed to you in the back seat to watch their shows while you go from A to B. They actually did this. It was very smart. They pulled off all of these very creative things all over town. It could help. We'll see.
Well, there's 2 open slots in this category, and I think almost everybody has the 5 that are eligible back. All the 5 we've already talked about. And if you assume Blackish is going to take a slot, then that leaves still a slot. I've got Casual in that last slot, and I'm suddenly biased because I went over and did the Q&A for that a few weeks ago. But Hulu really only has a handful of things they're really pushing strongly, and that's their only comedy they're pushing very strongly. And they're another service that's doing a really good job of getting the word out about their campaigns. And it's also got a pedigree. I mean, Jason Reitman is the executive producer, Oscar nominee, basically a film director. I think that show could actually take a slot there. I don't see it getting many nominations this year, but I think it could get in for comedy series. It got in at the Globes for comedy series.
A lot of our experts have Master of None in there. I think that's a real strong possibility. It's certainly got a lot of buzz. This is season 2, right, for the show?
No, season 1.
No, season 1. So that's...
Yeah, that's what I'm getting confused by. And Aziz Ansari is definitely in. The show maybe, I can't remember, I even have it in my predictions or not. But the problem with that show is it may skew too young, and he's perceived as a stand-up comedian. Remember, the only star of Seinfeld, of the primary cast members not to win an Emmy for acting was Seinfeld himself. And sometimes that does hurt. But Aziz and all the diversity thing, he's cool, and he's never nominated for Parks and Rec.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say, that it's interesting because it's not like they ever embraced him for Parks and Rec. So, but yeah, it does seem like it's
but that slot is the Parks and Rec slot. So maybe there's a certain type of voter that really likes that kind of humor, and it jumps right in there. The other one I would bring up, maybe the Big Bang Theory snub last year was a 1-year only thing.
Oh no, please.
Well, I don't have it predicted, but I mean, it was up for several years in a row before that. So, and you yourself, they love broadcast network comedies.
I hope they go for Mom.
I have Big Bang Theory predicted. It reminds me of last year. I remember last year because they expanded to 7, and I remember everybody in the drama series category is like, ooh, the Americans is going to take that 7th slot, and I kept thinking, no, they're just going to bring Homeland back, and that's what they did. And that's what it feels like this year. I feel like we've got 2 open slots here. Blackish might take 1. I'm predicting that. And the last slot, I'm thinking, are they going to be interesting and go Master of None or Casual or Mozart in the Jungle, or are they just going to bring Big Bang Theory back? And I'm going on the sort of cynical. They're already watching it. They already have liked it before. They're probably just going to bring it back.
I'm hoping if they pick a multicam show, they'll go with Mom, which seems to be on, an upswing. Well, not really, because it just got 1 nomination for season 1 and 1 nomination for season 2. But it's a really good, multicam show if you like that kind of thing. And it's season 3, which is eligible. And Everybody Loves Raymond didn't get nominated till season 3.
Of the shows, it's very common for us to see examples like Juliana Margulies or Holland Taylor of stars who are in 1 year, snub 1 year, come back, snub, and go in and out of the categories. We don't see that so much in the series competitions, do we? Chris, you have a good mathematical mind about all this. In other words, to your Big Bang concept here, are there examples? I'm not thinking any offhand.
Like Lost?
Well, Parks and Rec last year, it had been up early in its run, and then it got brought back last year for its final season.
Big
Bang Theory, just one other comment there. I mean, it is still the #1 comedy on on television as a whole, and it's a popular vote that we talked about in the drama It's stuff that we talked about in drama. You know, you've got more voters than ever voting, especially in program categories.
And it's evolving. Like it's its ninth season, but sort of to the point about Mozart in the Jungle, the first couple of seasons weren't on the radar. It kind of took off, I think, in about season 3. But the characters with the different relationships, all the different characters being in relationships, and you know, and the way that the characters have evolved. I'm obviously a fan, but like, you know, Raj, who couldn't talk to women a couple of seasons ago, suddenly is juggling 2 women. Or you know, Howard, who's suddenly happily married and expecting a baby, or you know, Leonard and Penny are together, and then the big one, I mean, the narrative is Sheldon and Amy. Sheldon, who's sort of was such a, you know, you couldn't imagine him interacting with any human, suddenly being intimate with somebody, and again, and like Chris said, it's hugely popular, and for a reason. People, it's really, really well done. And yes, I'm one of those people that does like multi-camera comedies, Marcus. So, and I think there's enough of us old-timers left. And also the expanded pool of Emmy voters. I mean, you can't discount the syndication factor. I mean, it's all over the dial, you know, every day in and day out. So there's, I've made my case.
Yourself into this nomination as you.
Oh, I wanted to. I wanted to win.
I know you're a fan, and you're. It could definitely happen. Let's talk about Marcus's favorite show, Last Man on Earth. A couple people have that in for series, and you know, we all know Jeffrey Tambor is 10 miles out front to win, but Will Forte is a real contender. Let's get your perspective on Last Man on Earth and in all those races there, Marcus.
I had it in my series pick for a long time, but I just feel like the buzz has died out. Am I wrong? And it got those huge nominations last year. It got writing, and it got directing, and it got actor, and it got editing. Those are 4 big ones. So why am I taking it out? Why do you guys not have it in? What's wrong with the show? Is it too juvenile of a show?
First of all, it's a big lie, because I've seen the little moments of the show. I did watch a few episodes of the first season, but then all of a sudden you see The Last Man on Earth, and if you go to the show now, there are all these men there. It's like, what the hell's going on with this show? It's lying to us, right, Marcus?
It's a bad title. But yeah, he's probably the funniest guy that will be nominated. I mean, look, who his competition will be: Aziz Ansari and Don Cheadle and William H. Macy. You know, Jeffrey Tambor. These are guys from like dramedies. So he may be the funniest one that's nominated. We know they like funny people, especially in these categories. They like the comedy categories to be given to people that make you laugh.
A lot of us have Gael Garcia Bernal. Of course, he's a big indie film star who has transitioned very well to these kind of TV shows, or streaming shows in his case. Don Cheadle is almost an automatic nominee, right?
I put him in today, yeah.
I also put him in today. I can't remember who I took out of that. Oh, I think I had like a hunch that like, oh, maybe this is going to Silicon Valley kind of mix in the middle. I still think he can, but I'm just, I mean, there's so many times when they could have dropped Don Cheadle from this category, and they just haven't. And he's a popular movie star. You know, if Emmy voters have diversity on their mind, are they going to category? So yeah, I have him coming back in my 6th slot, just hanging on by his fingernails.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus will set a new record for the most consecutive wins. It would be her 5th for this character on Veep. It will tie the record for the most wins for portraying one character, a record that's currently held by Don Knotts, Ed Asner, and Candice Bergen. And she will have 7 Emmys if she wins again, all told. That'll be 1 shy of the record held by Cloris Leachman. How am I doing, Chris, in the records department there?
You're impressive.
Okay,
That's
good.
Was that from memory or from the article that we wrote?
Memory from the article that I stole.
Although,
7 performing wins. She's got 1 for producing too.
Cloris Leachman's daughter on the red carpet. What did she tell you, Chris? The daytime Emmy counts, so she actually has 9.
Yeah, I said that we were just talking about that.
It does. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. So let's stick with you, Chris, for a second here. Amy Schumer will be nominated. She's almost as cool these days as Julie Louis-Dreyfus. Can she win? Chris?
See her winning. I don't know. I thought she had her best, a really good shot last year. They don't tend to seem to want to give variety performers these acting awards. They have it in guest star, but they've not done it in lead or supporting.
And just explain that, because it is confusing how there are these separate categories for variety series and for variety sketch series, talk series, but they don't have any performance categories over in variety, so they bring them into the comedy categories.
And
right?
even sillier there, when they first started doing that for several years, they forced people like Amy Schumer to compete in supporting. I mean, she wasn't. That didn't affect her, but it affected other people.
So the show was named for you, but you had to be down in support.
Right. So at least they allowed them to, go lead if they wanted to go lead. But I don't like it at all. They need to bring back the variety performance category. It's much more suitable to these types of performances.
And is that? That's
it was
what
totally different than what a variety person does, playing, say, several characters in one episode, as opposed to somebody in a comedy series playing one character.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that the nomination is lovely to have, but I think being in the wrong category is going to keep her from winning.
They haven't minded giving an occasional SNL guest host the award, but so far no regular variety performer and lead or supporting has won yet.
Maybe this year. I think if Allison Janney can't win a third for Mom, I think Kate McKinnon will be the one to beat her.
And she'll be coming off the big buzz of Ghostbusters as well.
Ghostbusters and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, so Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I think will be lots of and it'd be very interesting then, of course, because I think what they did so brilliantly with Veep was setting up yet another iteration of the show for next year, and you sort of think, my God, can this woman win again? Like I'm already imagining the plots, aren't you, of what can happen next year with her character, and I think it's also what I was talking about on the drama side. I think that especially with a popular vote, she's very popular. I mean, and it's so interesting to think that Julia Louis-Dreyfus only has one Emmy for Seinfeld, and then she got that, again, the popularity of New Christine, which was a multi-camera show, but that first season they give her the award, because they like her. And that
also, if episodes matter, she has a killer of an episode, the one where her mother dies. It's called Mother. It's probably the best episode of Veep and her best performance on Veep for the whole 5 seasons.
Well,
so
that is her logical submission, but the finale was pretty good too in terms of emotional range and everything.
When a person is that popular personally and is on a comedy series favorite and they've got the episode, in case people are watching episodes, I mean, how does that person not win?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And it's weird. I usually don't like repeat winners. I usually am against that. But with her, I don't mind it. I feel like she deserves another one.
Well, another thing I love about her, whenever she's talking to Tom or me or Marcus or somebody, she loves these records. So she wants to know every time, where do I stand on this and where do I stand on that? So she's not like one of these that, like, who did you meet one time, Tyne Daly or Edie Falco, who don't even know
but I will say
they've ever won an award.
Yeah, but I will say this in defense of, or in if she ends up breaking the records held by Candice Berg and Don Knotts. I mean, she's done 40 episodes of Veep, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't it 80 a year? I mean,
50.
that's... What's that?
I think 10 a year, but maybe season 1.
10, I'm sorry, okay. But whatever it is, it's like, that's not even 2 full seasons in the old days of a Murphy Brown and all that. No, so it's fine. But it's to what Juliana Margulies says. I mean, broadcast television has different demands, and that they've done 22 or 24 episodes of The Good Wife, I mean, that should mean something at some point. You're doing quality work week in and week out, like the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Just get another plug in.
Fairness. This is the Emmys, for God's sake. Daniel, in your predictions, you currently have Constance Wu in there. And now Constance Wu, fresh off the boat, did very well this year. I think it's a serious contender, and all of these lead categories. I could even see it getting in for comedy series, possibly. But Constance Wu is the breakout here. But you also have in that kind of like 6th slot, you've got Rachel Bloom. They're kind of like fighting it out, those two, right? So what's your thought on both of those?
It's sort of, when I look for, I don't care how the makes if it's on the CW, it's not in. And I'll leave it when I sit with the CW at this point. I mean, Gina Rodriguez would have been such an obvious choice to get in last year. The only reason she didn't get in was the network. Rachel Bloom, she won the Golden Globe. She won the Critics' Choice Award. I believe she's up for Critics' Choice for Individual Achievement, if I'm not mistaken. But CW, no one gets in on that network no matter what they do, and it just seems like, even with the 3 open slots, Constance Wu is a breakout star on that show. It's the 2nd season of the show, which I think is even building in buzz as it goes along. And it's on ABC, which is a network they're watching, especially for comedies with Blackish and Modern Family. So I really feel like, I'm not entirely sure it will be Constance Wu, but I'm at this point, I'm pessimistic about anybody from the CW trying to get a nomination from this particular voting body.
It's a very good argument for Constance Wu. You may have talked me into picking her over Rachel.
But unlike Blackish or some of these others, and I wouldn't put Rachel in that category either, but we don't have any evidence they've even seen Fresh Off the Boat.
That's true. Yeah, so, you just talked me back out of it. Okay.
Well, let me talk you into Jane Fonda.
I'm sorry.
I just moved her in today. On the one hand, Grace and Frankie, I think, got 1 nomination last year, and that was Lily Tomlin, who's on the Board of Governors. But there's 3 open slots, and as we've talked about on several categories, go with your worst instincts. If in terms of
Oh, Jane.
Well, I don't like that show, but in terms of they're just gonna name check. They're just gonna pick people if they got open slots who they're familiar with, whether they watch the show or not.
But Melissa McCarthy could come back.
Melissa McCarthy could come back. She'll also have Ghostbusters. So I love when there's open slots, but I'm also leery of it in terms of what are they going to do with an open slot.
That's funny.
I think Rachel's in, although I have her in 6th place. She's not just the actress. She's the producer. She's the songwriter. She's the script writer. She's the creator.
She fits more the Lena Dunham model, doesn't she?
She does, and there was Amy Schumer also does.
Right.
She wears several hats on her show. They like that at the Emmys. I think that's why
she's campaigned hard. We've seen her at every single, even events that had nothing to do with her.
She came to our Emmy party too, Rachel Bloom.
She did.
She even went bowling at our Emmy party. We did it at the Roosevelt Hotel, and upstairs on the 2nd floor they have a room where there's an old bowling alley there, and so I'm pretty sure she went bowling with us. Let's talk about supporting here. Supporting actor. Marcus, you've got Louis Anderson winning here.
That's wishful thinking. I really, really hope it happens.
It would be a really great one if it did happen. But Tony Hale, of course, has won here twice before. He won last year for Veep. Titus got nominated last year. He's back. So size this race up for us.
I believe all 6 guys are eligible again. The 6 nominees from last year are coming back. The one I'm not predicting. The one I'm not predicting is Keegan-Michael Key. I think that was a fluke nomination last year, so I'm not predicting he'll come back. So I'm replacing him with Louis Anderson. But Adam Driver, I think a lot of people are forgetting how much they love Adam Driver. And he actually had Star Wars this year, so he's bigger than ever. So make sure he's in your predictions.
That's a good point.
I wimped out this morning and put all 6 men back from last year.
Even Keegan?
Even I had... I'll think of it as I had Louis Anderson and I had somebody else and I just wimped out. I don't know why. I'm
not sure they're watching baskets. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my fear. Oh, I didn't have Hugh Laurie. I don't know who the other one was, but obviously, I'm looking at everybody's picks here. There's a couple that weren't nominated last year. If Blackish really improves, they do like Lawrence Fishburne a lot from previous projects. And over his career, they've loved Hugh Laurie, and he had a big season on Veep. If Veep improves, that may be a slot for it.
Right. Veep. I think Veep is going to improve across the board, and I think the supporting categories are where we're going to see it happen. I just don't know who. I mean, they could fill a whole slot with all the supporting guys on that show, a whole category.
Well, I hope Titus wins. That would be he deserves it.
It would be great. He certainly deserves it. And they love those big ham-bone comedic, flamboyant performances. Of course, Sean Hayes won for Veep in the old days. God bless him.
It's very, very, very possible. I'm not saying even that every comedy category, not talking about guest, is won by the same person or same show that won last year.
Yeah.
Because they're all frontrunners. Tony Hale, Allison Janney, Julia, Jeffrey Tambor, Veep. They're all like big frontrunners.
Well, let's talk about that then. Let's go to segue to supporting actress, and everybody's got Allison Janney there just because she just seems to be this Emmy juggernaut, right, Chris? Continue here. It's a show that, as Marcus pointed out, it doesn't really get many nominations, but it's not about Mom, is it? It's about Allison Janney. What is it about her?
Well, they've loved her all the way back to The West Wing, but the show, it's the only Chuck Lorre show that I can recall, other than when he worked on other shows like Roseanne, but of his own, that's equally comedy and drama. I mean, they get into some really tough territory on Mom. So in a given episode, she's not submitting a dramatic episode necessarily on each year, but any given episode is filled with drama and comedy. So I mean, it's perfect for an Emmy voter who likes to see range. And even if they don't watch the show, they know that that's basically the thrust of those characters.
But to Tom's point, saying she's not the mom, but she is the mom in a way.
Well, they're all moms.
Exactly. And to my mind, to be slightly controversial, it is a little bit of category fraud. I think that, like with The West Wing, when she was part of an ensemble in the first couple of years and then went up into lead, like Juliana Margulies on ER went up into lead, I really feel like Allison Janney should be up in lead. And I understand the politics of it because it's more likely she'll be nominated over her co-star Anna Faris. But it has changed from season 1 to now in that it absolutely feels like she's giving a leading performance. And I think that's why she keeps winning, because any and every episode she picks, she's really a co-star. So it's not like, oh, I've got to find the one in which I'm more featured than normal, like most supporting people.
Well, in her favor, because she joins us every summer for she's never been involved in that decision on West Wing or Mom. She says it's totally a producer thing. They did come to her on West Wing when they were moving her into lead and saying, here's what we're going to do and here's why. We want to help out Stockard Channing and Janelle Maloney and these others. But it wasn't her. It's not been her decision. So anyway, okay. I think on this show they would love to get Anna Faris into one of those 3 open slots.
And keep in mind, every decade in this category, someone wins 3 in a row. So for the 80s, it was Rhea Perlman. The 90s was Laurie Metcalf. The 2000s was Doris Roberts. So this is 2 in a row. Might as well make it 3 and continue this really interesting trend that we've been seeing.
And I guess Laurie Metcalf is the reason Julia Louis-Dreyfus only has 1 for Seinfeld. So
yeah.
What would happen if Allison was up against Julia in lead? 2 favorites.
Ooh, that's
Julia. Julia wins that. Julia wins that. Julia's on the best comedy frontrunner.
But the records, we were talking about Julia Louis-Dreyfus records, so what number Emmy would this be for Allison Janney if she wins, Chris?
This would be 8.
This would
tie
be
her
8.
with Cloris Leachman on primetime.
Yeah. Now,
well, actually, technically, she'll probably have a shot at 9 because she always gets in for Masters of Sex, too.
But to Cloris Leachman, the depth and breadth of what she won for, I mean, she won all over the place, Cloris Leachman. So,
right.
Uh-oh, we're losing Tom.
I know I just gone. Jan Krakowski was nominated last year for Kimmy Schmidt. She'll be back, right? Anna Chlumsky has actually won here. She'll certainly be back. Do you think Anna, given the Veep sweep, can take Allison down? I think that's possible.
Nah.
I'm not predicting it, but I think it's possible.
We should, of course, absolutely. I think that I think to your point, Tom, the Veep sweep, and also if it is just if Allison Janney is the only nominee for Mom, I think there is a vulnerability to it.
Yeah, they get on their sweep mode some years. Yeah, that could happen.
Not to Lena Headey last year, but maybe to Anna Klumsky this year.
Well, the fun thing about this category too is most categories we talked about open slots. They had 8 in this category last year, and all 8 are eligible. So 2 are going to get snubbed no matter what.
No, or not.
Well, that'd be highly unusual to have a tie again. Get another.
It's not a tie. It's just within 2%. So
okay.
We'll see.
They're voting on the same 8 women again, so if they feel the same way about them next year that they did this year, then the proportions might come out that they all 8 get in again.
Yeah.
So Daniel, you're a big Transparent fan. There's 4 or 5 eligible ladies here. I have Judith Light getting in. What do you have? Do you have anyone from Transparent?
I have Judith Light getting in, but I also have Gabby Hoffman staying.
Okay.
Oh, you have 2. Okay.
Okay.
Like they last year when she didn't have the name recognition, so it showed that they not only liked the show, but they specifically liked her on it. The show, it hasn't lost any of its buzz or acclaim in its second season. The second season, if anything, was even more about the children, the adult children characters than the first season was. And so she had plenty of material, even more than Judith Light did, again. So this year I have them both getting in. I also wouldn't rule out some combination of other actors, like Cherry Jones. We know they like her. She won for 24. Amy Landecker had a really big, so maybe she gets in. I don't think it'll run the category, but I think it has a chance to get some combination of 2 women in there.
Kate McKinnon from Saturday Night Live, of course, is very likely to get in. Are we forgetting anybody? Oh, Bernadette Peters for Mozart in the Jungle. It's a possibility. I don't think I have her in my nominations now. I don't know if I'll keep her there, but it's certainly a colorful character.
Niecy Nash was in last year.
Maya Bialik also.
Maya Bialik's been in several years. Niecy Nash is one of those people we talked about on some other categories that, character actress basically. Works with everybody in the industry, just seems to be well liked. I mean, even though the show is canceled, that's not out of the realm to see her back in there.
Did we mention Julie Bowen? She's always in there.
Maybe not anymore, though.
I mentioned her. Shame on us.
Yeah, but I think that this is where I think there's a distinct possibility nobody from Modern Family gets nominated. I think that it feels like it's had its time. I would not be surprised.
Well, and we didn't mention it off the top, but I mean, we talk about 2 open slots, but Modern Family is not guaranteed to be.
Yes, it is. It's going to be nominated.
Frasier won 5 in a row, lost the next year, and then failed to get in for a while. I mean,
really?
That's right. So it's not. Once they get tired of you, they get tired of you.
But if you're voting for 10. I mean, if you're looking at the ballot...
The rules are different now. The scenarios... If Frasier had been in an era with 7 nominees, I doubt it would have ever missed. But I'm just saying, there's so many more shows now. If somebody's making that list of 10 and they're going, Modern Family's had its day, I'm not going to mark it down.
The critics
or Ty Burrell or Julie Bowen or whoever it happens to be. I love it. I mean, it's one of my favorites. But
I think it's in, but I don't think there's any chance it's out. But I love your trivia factoid for Frasier. I hadn't realized that. My God, that's an ominous parallel, isn't it? I mean, if it does line up, 5 wins consecutively, loses the 6th year, and then sixth year. Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah, I just checked. Frasier has 8 nominations for comedy, and it was on 11 years.
Right.
So it missed 3.
It might not have been the 7th year, but it dropped out eventually. But some shows never drop out. We've seen that many times over, where they. There've been I know Cheers went all 11, and I mean there've been many that have gone their full run getting into series.
Let's talk about in the comedy sketch series category. Inside Amy Schumer is everybody's favorite to get in there. Of course, Saturday Night Live will get nominated. Of course, Key and Peele will be in there. What else do we have here? We have Portlandia and Billy on the Street, a documentary now. Who's got some thoughts on this race?
Well, I think it's the first four you named. I mean, are pretty safe. After that, I've got Documentary Now replacing. I think it was Drunk History last year. Documentary Now is very popular. It's got Fred Armisen, Bill Hader, and Seth Meyers behind it, and they've run a really good campaign. They've run one of the campaigns I've seen this year.
Why is everyone convinced Inside Amy Schumer will win over Saturday Night Live? Saturday Night Live had the big, election season. People were really buzzing about the show. I feel like Amy Schumer's show kind of was
When
under
was the
radar.
last time Saturday Night Live won this category? One variety. I don't think it's been 20, 30 years, right?
Maybe, yeah. It's been a while.
It's been at least 20, but they win a ton of awards every year, so it's not like they don't like the show. And technical categories and such, but last year's 40th anniversary won several. So
this is a new Emmy category. This is only the second year of it, so it's hard to compare. When it was going against The Daily Show or David Letterman, it's hard to compare now because it's a brand new.
I compared very easily, and I don't think I don't think they think that way in the program categories. I think even when you mentioned the Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary loss, that was a shock. In special, right?
One special.
Or one special. There goes my whole theory then. What the hell do I know? So let's talk about sketch. Is this the year for John Oliver? Daniel, is this his year?
It's about as good a shot as he's ever had. Jon Stewart's out of the way, and Trevor Noah, while he could get in, I don't think he's built up the kind of goodwill that Jon Stewart did. And while we still got Stephen Colbert, the other recent winner, he's on the late show as in, but I don't think he's an automatic check winner either. So John Oliver has the buzz. He was nominated. He broke through last year in this category.
We're losing you, Daniel. Paul, Samantha Bee is the new Amy Schumer. So does that mean win?
Absolutely. I think that Samantha Bee is the one to beat again. I think John Oliver's got that. Every week people are writing about both Samantha Bee and John Oliver, and I think it's going to come down to the two of them. And but the thing that Samantha Bee's got, I mean, she's going to have new episodes through the end of the year, and so I think people talk about her, and it's also in a way the year of the woman, I mean, with that's happening in real life and politics, and I think that it would be really wonderful to sort of give that award to a woman and an alumnus of The Daily Show. It would be sort of a passing of the torch.
This is a category I've gotten wrong the past 3 or 4 years. Like,
we don't want to hear what you have to say. Then screw you.
When Jimmy Fallon came out with Tonight Show, I thought that would win. And then one of the years Colbert won, I predicted Daily Show. And then last year I predicted Colbert, and it was The Daily Show. I think this year it's a slam dunk for John Oliver. I don't think anything's close. HBO has more voters than any other network. They're all going to rally behind the show. It's not even going to be a close contest.
And HBO won about every program category last year except for variety talk. I think it's probably John Oliver, but look out for Jimmy Fallon. I mean, talk about popularity. Of all the nominees in this category, that show has.
He doesn't have the cool factor there. It's John Oliver. I agree with Marcus, even though his prediction history is rather dubious in this race. And he admits it in his own case. But I think it is John Oliver for all the reasons that you said. But I think Samantha Bee, as Paul's saying, is a real threat here.
Well, you look out for Jimmy Fallon. Tonight Show with Jay Leno won. It was either its second or third season. It had no cool factor. So, and that was up in a time when it was up against any kind of variety show. So
that was the days of panels, though, too. So who knows what he submitted? Late Night with Late Show with Stephen Colbert will be in there. Real Time with Bill Maher, of course, it will be nominated, and of course will lose as it always does. Jimmy Kimmel Live is in the running here in the hunt. And what else?
I took Colbert out. I took him out this morning. That show has gone through retooling twice, which means they don't even like it behind the scenes. Mm. And it's consistently third in the rankings behind Fallon and Kimmel. I've got James Corden getting in. Nobody had a bigger year in terms of visibility between the show and the Carpool Karaoke and the Tony Awards, and I think he's going to be the CBS show that's in there and not Stephen Colbert.
Wow.
Well, Paul Sheehan disagrees. Paul Sheehan has Seth Meyers getting in, right, Paul?
Yeah, and again, just for the edginess, the political, it's an election year.
Oh, you also have James Corden in. Never, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I think that Seth Meyers, is to be considered. I think because he, unlike, Colbert is sort of a work in progress, but so was Seth late night, and the fact that this year Seth Meyers, stopped doing the monologue, sat at the desk, is going to do live shows after the conventions this summer. So really topical, really, and I think again that people talk about his show the next day. I think in a way
they talk about Corden too.
Yeah, they talk about Carpool Karaoke, which is fun. Yeah, absolutely, and I've got him in there. But I'm just saying, I think the gravitas is more Seth Meyers. I mean, he's doing every night what sort of John Oliver does once a week.
Would Samantha be the first female talk show ever nominated? I'll have to look that up.
I think
Joan Rivers might have gotten in there. I know she got in for daytime.
Yeah, no, I think it didn't last long enough for her nighttime show.
True.
So.
Okay, it's a wrap. Thank you, guys. We're going to sign back on for one more chat here, and we're going to cover the TV, movie, and mini categories. So, rest of you guys, stay tuned.